Hey everyone, welcome back to Genai's World News. Let's get straight into it, because today is absolutely packed. We're starting with a bombshell from the tech world. According to the Financial Times, Apple CEO Tim Cook is stepping down in September, ending one of the most consequential leadership runs in corporate history. Cook, who took over from the legendary Steve Jobs back in 2011, will transition to the role of chairman of the board. Taking his place as chief executive will be John Ternus, the company's current head of hardware engineering. Now, Ternus isn't a household name to most people outside Silicon Valley, but inside Apple, he's considered a deeply trusted figure who has overseen the development of the company's most important physical products, including the move to Apple Silicon chips, which transformed the Mac lineup. The Financial Times describes this as a carefully managed transition, with Cook himself expected to play a key role during the handover period. This is a huge moment for one of the world's most valuable companies. Tim Cook leaves behind a legacy of supply chain mastery, services expansion, and a market cap that regularly topped $3 trillion. All eyes will now be on whether Ternus can maintain that momentum and how Apple navigates the increasingly competitive AI landscape under new leadership. A massive story, and we'll be watching this one closely. Moving now to a major geopolitical flashpoint. BBC News is reporting that the United States has intercepted and seized an Iranian vessel attempting to enter the Persian Gulf as part of what President Donald Trump has described as a naval blockade operation. Trump himself announced the seizure publicly, and the news immediately rattled energy markets. Also per BBC News, oil prices jumped following the announcement, as traders reacted to the escalating tensions between Washington and Tehran. This comes against a volatile backdrop. Energy markets have already been experiencing wild swings ever since the United States and Israel conducted strikes against Iran back on the 28th of February. The BBC also reports that the U.S. Export-Import Bank has been, quote, inundated with requests to support American oil and gas exports since the conflict began, a sign that energy geopolitics are reshaping global trade flows in real time. Iran has not yet issued a formal public response to the latest seizure, but the situation remains extremely fluid. This is exactly the kind of event that can send shockwaves through global shipping lanes, insurance markets, and energy prices worldwide. We're tracking this closely, and you should be too. Next up, an absolutely staggering deal in the world of artificial intelligence. The Financial Times reports that AI startup Anthropic, the company behind the Claude AI assistant, has reached a landmark agreement with Amazon worth $100 billion to massively expand its computing and chip infrastructure. Now, to put that number in perspective, that is one of the largest AI infrastructure investments ever announced. So why does Anthropic need this? The FT notes that the company has suffered a series of service outages this year, exposing the limits of its current computing capacity. As demand for AI tools explodes globally, companies like Anthropic are in a race to build the underlying infrastructure fast enough to keep up. For Amazon, this deepens a strategic partnership that's been building for some time. Amazon Web Services has been positioning itself as the cloud backbone for the next generation of AI development, and a deal of this scale cements that ambition. This is also a signal to the broader market. The AI infrastructure arms race is not slowing down. We're talking about eye-watering capital being deployed to build data centers, acquire chips, and secure computing power, all in pursuit of the next frontier of artificial intelligence. A monumental deal with global implications. Sticking with Amazon for a moment, but this time, it's not good news for Jeff Bezos. The Financial Times reports that the Federal Aviation Administration has forced Blue Origin to halt operations of its flagship New Glenn rocket, dealing a significant setback to Amazon's ambition to challenge Elon Musk's Starlink satellite internet service. Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket is central to Amazon's Project Kuiper. It's planned to deploy thousands of satellites and offer broadband internet from space. But with the FAA grounding operations, the launch schedule for those satellites is now in serious jeopardy. This is a frustrating blow for Bezos, who has invested billions into Blue Origin over the years. Starlink, meanwhile, already has tens of thousands of satellites in orbit and hundreds of thousands of active subscribers around the world. Every delay for Amazon means more ground. Quite literally, that Musk gains. The FAA hasn't publicly detailed the specific reasons for grounding the rocket, but regulatory holds like this can take weeks or months to resolve. For Amazon's satellite internet dreams, the clock is ticking. In U.S. political news, the Financial Times is reporting that Lori Chavez DeRemer, Donald Trump's labor secretary, has resigned, making her the third cabinet official to exit the Trump administration in less than 2 months. Chavez DeRemer had been one of the more notable picks in Trump's cabinet, a former Republican congresswoman who had earned relatively rare support from some labor unions before her appointment. Her departure adds to a pattern of instability at the top of the administration that analysts and political observers are increasingly taking note of. The FT doesn't detail the specific reasons behind her exit, but the frequency of these cabinet departures is drawing scrutiny on Capitol Hill. 3 senior officials gone in under 60 days raises real questions about the working dynamics inside the Trump White House and whether the administration is struggling to maintain cohesion across its key departments. We'll be keeping an eye on who Trump nominates to fill this role, as labor policy has significant implications for workers, unions, and the broader U.S. economy. Now to a story that has provoked widespread international condemnation. BBC News reports that an Israeli soldier has vandalized a statue of Jesus Christ in Lebanon, triggering outrage from religious communities, diplomatic officials, and governments around the world. The Israeli military has addressed the incident, stating that it views the soldier's actions with, quote, great severity. The U.S. ambassador to Israel has also weighed in, demanding what they described as swift consequences for the individual responsible. This is a deeply sensitive incident. Lebanon is a country with a significant Christian population, and the desecration of a religious statue carries enormous symbolic weight, both politically and spiritually. Coming at a time of already heightened tensions across the region, this kind of act risks inflaming sentiments further and complicating delicate diplomatic relationships. The Israeli military has not yet publicly specified what disciplinary measures may be taken against the soldier. Religious leaders in Lebanon and across the broader Christian world have been vocal in their condemnation, and pressure is mounting on the Israeli government to respond decisively. A story we will continue to monitor. Across the Atlantic in the United Kingdom, Prime Minister Keir Starmer has been facing one of the most bruising periods of his tenure. The Financial Times reports that Starmer was grilled in a chastening session in the House of Commons, with Labour MPs openly questioning his judgment following the fallout from what's being called the Mandelson scandal. The row involves Peter Mandelson, the veteran political strategist and now UK ambassador to Washington, and has raised serious questions about governance and accountability at the heart of the Starmer administration. Starmer has reportedly been accused of trying to shift blame onto officials rather than taking responsibility himself, a charge the FT describes as scapegoating. While Labour MPs are publicly frustrated, the FT notes there is still no consensus among the party on whether to move against Starmer, particularly ahead of upcoming local elections. In other words, anger, yes. Action, not yet. This is a crucial test of Starmer's leadership. The Mandelson situation has exposed what critics describe as a fundamental weakness in his political judgment, and the next few weeks could define whether he can steady the ship or whether pressure continues to build. A significant story unfolding in real time at Westminster. And that's going to wrap up today's edition of Genai's World News. We covered a lot of ground today, from Tim Cook's farewell to the halls of Apple, to Iranian ships being seized on the open sea, to billion-dollar AI deals reshaping the tech world. If you found today's coverage valuable, please hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll see you in the next one.